Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to the first in a number of very special interviews on the Intimate Marriage Podcast. I'm aware, because you've told me so, that many of you are really intrigued by the Aligned and Hot Marriage program, and you're not quite sure if it's the right thing for you and your partner. And so I'm going to be doing a series of interviews with some couples, some individuals who've been through the program who can tell you what it's about. And today I'm really happy to invite someone who I want to call my friend, although we've met on Instagram because we were both in a group that neither of us were particularly active in. But anyway, it was a group to help one another grow our Instagram followings. And so I feel like I know you really well. Yes, we've had some conversations, but mostly because I follow you on Instagram and you share such beautiful things about the seasons and self-love and kindness through sensual yumminess. In fact, let me just say a warm hello and you describe your business.
Thank you for having me, Alexandra. So happy to be here. So my name is Yvette, and I am a self-love educator. I'm a yoga therapy teacher, and I also am a formulator of a line of organic body care products that I call Vital Living Wellness. And really my mission is to support people who want to have more self-love in their life, like make it more of a lifestyle. And that's why I brought in my products. It was really just an excuse to get people to start using yummy things on their body to spend more time with themselves, be able to enjoy touching themselves with oils and putting oils on and smelling oils. And so that's why I started creating my products. But the education piece is really, it's been a long journey because I've been a yoga teacher, a yoga therapy teacher for 10 years now. And so I've always brought in that self-love aspect. Even when I was just teaching yoga classes, it was a very holistic type of class. So I'm doing everything solely remotely now. I don't do in-person classes, but that's really in a nutshell what I do.
Okay, thank you. And you're right. I didn't even say your name, but I'm looking at your beautiful face. So if you're on YouTube, you see what I'm seeing. And if you're listening somewhere, yes, this is Yvette Racines. Did I say your name properly?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's really very interesting to me that you are so immersed and expert in self-love and a facilitator for others who want to have more self-love of body, soul, and spirit. So yes, you talked about those amazing oils, but it's also how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, what message you tell yourself when you look in the mirror, that all of this is your expertise. And you have a very beautiful marriage. And when you and I first started having that conversation, I was really clear that there's a lot of love between you and your partner, even as you had a desire for more. And I have to say, you're so exquisite, gracious, and elegant in and eloquent in the communications, in the emails you've sent me. And so I'm really glad that you were willing to come and share your experience. So will you just describe your marriage, how long you've been together, how many children you have, what was really beautiful and solid, and also a bit that was challenging for you before the two of you enrolled in the Aligned and Hot Marriage program?
Yes, thank you. So my husband and I, we have been married. Well, it's funny, we've been married for 5 years, but we've been together for, I think we're going on our 17th year. And
Because you feel to me like a couple with that much depth. So that's a good distinction because I experienced the two of you as a 17-year couple for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, and we've always had a really deep, loving relationship. And I kind of think of him as like my knight in shining armor. Like he's the kind of man that or husband that just like will do anything for his queen or his wife. Um, but of course there was challenges as well. But for the most part, like we did have, and we do have a very solid relationship. We're really close. We're really open with each other. We share everything. There's really nothing that we keep from each other. And when we started a relationship, I had 2 children from a previous marriage. So, and he had none. So when we combined families, it was a whole new experience for him of, taking on 2 kids that were 10 and gosh, 6 and 9 years old. And then years later, we decided to have one of our own, and which brought us even closer. We always laugh and say like he's the glue to our family, our youngest one, and he really is. But our family is very tight, and um, we do have a very passionate relationship. And when I can't remember how I found out about your program. I think that you were offering like a couples coaching workshop on one weekend. And I asked my husband, are you interested in doing this? And I kind of told him a little bit about what you do. And he said, sure. So we came on with you. We had a great conversation with you.
I want to
And
just interject
yes,
that he is an engineer. He's a sound engineer. He is very analytical. He's not responding to the mysterious or the innuendo or the breathy the way that many kinds of relationship think. No, he is a very down to earth, meticulous, precise, clear person. And what falls outside of that, he's really not putting attention on unless it's to problem solve, right?
absolutely. Yeah, he's very much like, what is it that you have to share with me? I want to know, and I don't want to know anything. I don't need you to fluff it up, right? So in a way, I was surprised that he wanted to go on and do the couples workshop. Um, but what we walked away with from that couples workshop, I can't even remember what we talked about. We talked about so many things, but we got really clear that the two of us, we were stuck with some of our communication. We kept finding ourselves bumping up against conversations around finances and money because he's like a human calculator. Everything is in his mind all the time. He knows exactly every cent that comes in and every cent that goes out. And I'm a little bit more free in that. And so every time we'd have conversations, it would always turn into I would be upset about something that he said, or he felt like I wasn't understanding where he was coming from, that weren't respecting each other's decisions about, how to manage our finances. And it was just this ongoing thing. And we'd always have an argument and then be okay with each other, but we never felt resolved. Well, I know that I never felt resolved, and I'm sure that he never felt resolved until we had that couples workshop with you, and we realized that we could really use some help with how to communicate better with each other, because we loved each other and we were on the same team with each other. So how can we communicate better with each other? And then you had told us about the Aligned and Hot Marriage program. And I knew right away that I wanted to do it. I was like, yes, I'm in. And it took him a couple of days to feel comfortable with it. I think part of it was that he was a little vulnerable with sharing some things that he was uncomfortable with during that couples workshop. And he was afraid of that. There was like this part of him that didn't really want to go there. But after a conversation of, this is an investment for the two of us. What is the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing is that we learn nothing. Fine. But we would have spent time with each other. And the best thing is that we could walk away feeling a little bit more free with our communication with each other and just feeling more comfortable.
I want to also say that I was really impressed with how you navigated things, because you knew you weren't doing yourself or him or your marriage any favors to exert pressure. You were really good about making it clear that this was a juicy desire, that you really wanted to do it with a certain level of detachment. I mean, sure, you wanted him to, but you really made space and were so respectful about his decision. And I really admire that. And I just want to highlight it because it's useful to be aware.
Yeah. And another one of the reasons why I really wanted to do the program was because I knew that once we were able to get over that hump of not having an argument over finances, that our intimate relationship would be that much better. It already was so delicious and so juicy, but I felt like if we could be able to communicate with each other without getting angry and upset, imagine how free we would be during something special, like an intimate moment, or, an intimate moment. Imagine the possibilities, right? I've always been the kind of person that felt like if I'm not able to express myself freely, I'm going to hold back in most things that I do, especially the most vulnerable things that I do. So, and I expressed that to him. I told him that, and maybe that was a little nudge that helped him make the decision.
The strategy of truth.
Right. I wasn't lying about it. I really was.
Right. I can hear it wasn't manipulative. It was actually
no, not
a
at
very
all.
genuine communication.
Yeah. So we signed up for the program, and we made a commitment that every Friday night we would take one of the lessons and do one of the lessons together. We would come in our room. We would tell the kids, like, we're going in for our lesson. It's our date night. And they're so excited about it. And that's what we did. And we actually still have one lesson left. But after our first lesson, it was as though like doors had opened up, like doors that were like really locked in our relationship, especially the communication around money and the communication around being honest with each other without being rude to each other. Because we would do that a lot. Because we're so close. We've been together for such a long time. I think that sometimes when you want to be forthcoming, that sometimes it's easy to be rude. And so after that first lesson, it was like, wow, this is going to be really good for us. We knew right away. And actually, our relationship had a little shift right away from our very first lesson. And so we did this every Friday night. And there were some really wonderful things that we learned from your program. Can I just mention one thing that we
Of course.
use and we love using is the conscious redo.
Oh, yes.
We love that. because we don't have to allow a situation just to be what it is and just keep going with that situation, especially situations that are uncomfortable or painful. We can stop and redo, go back and do it from a place of love and respect. And when we did that in the lesson, it was so much fun. And we would even joke, even afterwards, if I got snippy with him, he'd say, I think that we need to do a conscious redo. We both laugh, and I would redo, I would say something again, something that I said that was maybe kind of rude or bossy or judgmental. I would redo it, and it would always come out so much better when there was some awareness that was brought to my attention. And then actually last night, we got home late. We're doing a kitchen remodel. He's tiling the wall. Nothing's going right. He's so frustrated. And I ask him a question and he completely snaps at me. But I knew he was frustrated, so I didn't push him. And then this morning, he's at work. We talk to each other every morning. He said, I really wanted to do a conscious redo because I snapped at you last night and I didn't mean to do that. And I just wanted to redo that again. And even though it happened last night and I had kind of forgotten about it, I didn't even really, I wasn't going to carry it with me, but he felt like he needed to do it again so that in his own heart, he felt good about our communication. And so it was really sweet. So he did a conscious redo and we talked about the kitchen a little bit. And so that's just one of the things that we really love and appreciate and do in our relationship from your program.
I really love that so much. I think there's a lot you're conveying with words and also a lot that you're conveying just through your transmission. And I have a question, and please be as discreet as you would like to be. But because there are two different reasons, generally, it can be one or both, that people are interested in the Aligned and Hot Marriage program. To put it very simply, either because they want more alignment, which is more aligned communication and more of an emotional connection, or they want more hot. In Aligned and Hot, meaning their sensual, sexual, erotic intimacy. And the program does not include any mention of sex positions or specifically how to do foreplay. It really is guidance on how to be more present, more authentic, and create emotional intimacy, because the vast majority of times that just flows right away into the erotic intimacy. And so I wonder if there's something you'd be willing to share that, of course, is completely respectful of you and your husband. I know you wouldn't go outside that, but I'm not asking you to, but I just wonder if there's anything you'd be comfortable sharing about the influence. And another way of saying the exact same thing, which is a little broader, is other than your communications about money or when you're not being as respectful as you aspire to be, what else have you noticed has flourished in your marriage as a result of going through the curriculum?
Well, you mentioned the word foreplay, and I would say that all communication between me and my husband is foreplay. It really is. Because if we're not aligned in our communication, the intimacy part just fizzes away. There's nothing there. It makes it boring. It makes it very mechanical, very dry. So when him and I are able to communicate with each other and we're aligned with our decisions, we look at each other differently. Like there's this sparkle I've noticed in his eyes when we're talking, even when we're talking about money. We've even switched that up about how we communicate about that, but we'll be talking about something and we'll just lock eyes, and then I'm like, whoa, what just happened? But what just happened was we, there's just this level of respect that's there in our communication. And I don't know about you, but when I feel comfortable communicating with my husband, when I feel like he sees me and he's really hearing me, I'm so much more able to open up and relax. Whereas if I'm not feeling that from him, I just completely close up and tighten up. So our communication has really been a great form of foreplay. And doing the lessons on our Friday nights was kind of just like a little fun, like foreplay before, going to bed on Friday night. So, um, yeah, it's really benefited us like on all levels of our relationship.
I really appreciate how you describe that. And I just want to emphasize and highlight what you've already said, which is that areas that were sticky and sources of conflict are smoothed out, or when they're not, you know exactly how to navigate that so that they then become smoothed out. And the areas that were never problematic, also, it's like adding seasoning or spraying perfume throughout the home. It's like when you want to sell a house and you put the cinnamon in the oven to fill the home with that delicious feeling. Like that's the kind of sense I'm getting, that through putting both of you being intentional and using what is offered in the Aligned and Hot Marriage program, it's like there's that smell of cinnamon throughout your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I didn't, it's hard to know. Well, before doing the program, I could probably pinpoint and pick out some things in our relationship that I knew that we needed to work on. Um, but our intimacy probably wouldn't have been one of those things until now. Now that I look back, I'm like, wow, it's things are so much better now. Things are so much more juicy now than they were before. But the only thing that has changed is the way that we communicate with each other.
Well, that's the only thing you've put attention on changing.
Yeah. And it's not like we're physically doing anything different than before. It's really that deep emotional connection that we're making sure that that's there first, and then everything else just kind of falls into place.
I really appreciate how you articulate that. And I think in general in society, there's a lack of understanding of how good communication, emotional intimacy truly are the best lubricant in the world. And it just makes us hot and ready to open our hearts. Or it is the process of opening our hearts that really helps women and men open our legs. And I've actually heard that feedback before, that I never thought there was a problem with our intimacy, but now it's so much better. Well, anything else that you would share for someone who's thinking, oh, I'm not sure. Like, I like the idea of the Aligned and Hot Marriage program, but anyone who's on the fence, that you or not on the fence, what else do you think would be valuable for people to know?
It's such a great resource of education. I think that, well, for me personally, I didn't grow up, my parents divorced when I was 10 years old. So I didn't have the education of how to communicate with your partner, how to do things as a unit. I didn't have that. And I think that we're expected to have that just because we find a partner and we get married. We're supposed to know that. But those are things that are really taught to you. Um, and so that has been the biggest part too, is it's education. And if you are the kind of person that wants to grow as an individual and wants to grow as a couple, this is the program. I felt like this was exactly what we needed for both our individual growth and for our growth of our union as a couple.
This makes my heart sing to hear you say that. That is exactly what I've designed it for. My parents were divorced when I was 9, and I also didn't know. And through having expertise as an intimate marriage expert, a relationship and intimacy coach, I know that for those whose parents didn't get divorced, they don't know either.
Right. Yeah. Kevin's parents were never divorced, but they've been together for 45 years. But he even says growing up, their communication was horrible. They weren't the model couple. So he didn't learn it either. He didn't learn how to communicate and be open and be compassionate. He didn't learn that. So it just like anything else, if you want to become better at something, you have to learn. Someone has to teach you, and you have to educate yourself. You have to put the time in. So that's how I feel.
I'm so glad to hear you say it. And as soon as I understood, and it became my deep conviction that having a fantastic relationship is a learnable skill, then of course I want to make that education available. And I am so immensely grateful that you are willing to share so that people can have an understanding of how this works. Because for whatever reason, this potent, gentle curriculum, it's actually hard for people to imagine because there is such a lack of education as you've described. And so for you to give voice, I'm just incredibly grateful to you for doing that. Is there anything else that you want to say, or does that feel complete for you?
I just want to say that I feel completely grateful for meeting you and you sharing this information with us. I can't imagine, even though it's only been like a couple of months, the shift that has taken place has just been really beautiful. And Kevin and I both are really grateful to you. So many times, I think people in marriages or partnerships hate to admit that they can improve their relationship. And I know I was like that for a long time too. And I know Kevin was that way too. Like, we don't need help. We're fine. And you can always learn more and gain more understanding. You can always do that. And hopefully, for a partnership that wants to continue to flourish and grow, that you will educate yourself and know that things are changing and evolving. So you want to know how to communicate with your partner and how to live that really beautiful life together. So if there is that feeling of, I already know it all, just know that there's always more to learn.
For anyone whose interest is piqued, please go ahead and check out. It's alignedhotmarriage.com, alignedhotmarriage.com. The link will be in the show notes. My heart is just so full and I'm in the vibe, and I needed to turn my analytical mind back on. But the proper link will be in the show notes. And please go ahead and enroll if you want to message me with any questions. I'm happy to answer. But really, I think you heard what it's all about. This is a program for people in loving, committed marriages who want so much more from the partnership and from their experience with one another. So don't pass it up. This is available to you. And if you're in a good marriage and you want more juiciness, more alignment and heat, this is the easiest way to create that for yourselves. And if what you want to start with is some self-love, or do it simultaneously, I'd love to give you an opportunity to say how people can follow you and what they would find from doing so, Yvette.
Yeah. So I am on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is at Vital Living Wellness, and my website is vitallivingwellness.com. And I actually have an upcoming self-love program that's coming up next week. So there's still time to join. And it's a 4-week series, all about self-love. We're going to be diving into some really beautiful ancient wisdom based in Ayurveda that teaches us and talks about how to live a really fulfilling day, an intentional day, how to live in accordance with the different seasons. It's a really beautiful program. And I know that there's so many people right now who feel really out of sorts. They don't feel well in their own physical bodies and emotionally not well. This is the program for you. If you're needing to feel more like that version of you that really is thriving, this is the program. And it's only 4 weeks, so it's not a long period of time. And it's all through Zoom. And that's what I have coming up. I also have my Vital Living Wellness products listed on my website. So delicious self-love products and an excuse for you to give yourself a massage, or you can give your partner a massage too. And so that's how you can find me.
Okay, thank you. And I have some of your products, which you sent me as a gift, that I just love having. And I associate them with that beautiful, delicious giggle that follows when you say something meaningful. I just love it so much. And I, again, really want to thank you for bringing who you are, your message about self-love, and also the depth of your experience in the Aligned and Hot Marriage program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexandra.